My 992 replacement search is over and there is a new car coming. Hey everybody, my name's Steve, and if you're new to these videos, I'm digging deeper on the cost of ownership, and that was previously my Porsche 992 Carrera 2, which I purchased new back in March 2020. Now that car, when I purchased it, has seen two price increases on its new base price, and I've recently been searching for new and used cars to see what would actually be available for £89,000. Now while I've been doing that search, I've looked at things like used supercars, I've looked at just replacing the 992 with a brand new C2 and seen what that cost was. Spanner in the works though, not many cars available. The dealer had nothing on the forecourt, the cars already in the showroom were pre-sold, and they had a waiting list as long as your arm for more 992, 911 models. So I thought, right, okay, let's just sit on the sidelines, let's take a look at what's available, let's sit on the money, keep it in the bank, and for every month I'm not paying finance, I'm also not paying the car insurance, I'm also not paying the high fuel costs, and I was just borrowing a little run around that I was able to use while I was really not using the car very much. However, one thing I did keep to myself, and it was really because I didn't know whether it was going to happen or not, so I was chancing it. Back in August when I sold my 992, I did actually put a deposit down on something to be in the waiting list, and that something was actually the 718 GTS. Now I did that for two reasons, and one is that it is a refundable deposit. Until you actually get a build slot, you are sitting in a queue, you do place an order, you put a deposit against the car. When it's a 718, it is only £3,000 deposit here in the UK, on the 992 is 5. So I was putting 3 down to basically sit and see when I might get a build slot. Now, the beauty of that is that I didn't actually know when a build slot would become available, if there would be a one came available, because what I was being told was there was a log of orders already in the system, and Porsche in Germany hadn't actually negotiated with the UK to give them an allocation at the dealers. So the dealers had no clue yet who out of all those orders is actually going to be given an allocation. So there's always the possibility that everyone that was sitting in the 992 waiting list wasn't going to get a car because there might have been too many. Whereas there was only like 2 people wanted a 718 GTS at my dealer. So I put the deposit down back in August and I just sat quiet. And I just waited to see if a call came. Now that call never came, so I kept looking around, seeing what I could actually purchase with the money, the used supercars, the new cars that were available, some of the stuff I could have just walked into, like a BMW M4 that they had lying around on showroom floors. And then this month, in January, I actually got a phone call, first week back after the new year. So I said yeah, because really I didn't think I was going to go down the route of buying, say, a used supercar and dealing with the service costs that's going to come my way inevitably on a 10-year-old car. And I also don't think they were very practical to use on a day-to-day basis. So there was a third point I also had to consider with this, and at the 718 level, as standard, the gearbox is a manual. So what I did was I used my free Porsche Experience Center day that came with my 992, and if you've seen that video, you'll have seen me talk about it, to actually test drive a 718 GTS manual. Now, having driven that manual car for a couple of hours around the test track down at the Performance Center, I actually decided that I think the clutch is a little bit too heavy for me on a daily driving experience, and having already owned a PDK in the 718 and the 992, I think I just decided I was going to stick with the PDK. So I will show you the car now, and what we'll do is we'll kick off with the original spec that I ordered. Now I always save a copy of the car that I order when I do the print off on the configurator. And here on the screen you can see this is the choice that I went with at the time that I placed the order, and it was always just a placeholder order that I was able to change when it actually came to the build slot. Now that total price at the bottom you can see comes to $68,922. This was pre the price rise that just came in at roughly 3%, 2.9% just recently. And unfortunately, although I lodged the car at that price when I ordered it, I am getting stitched and I'm going to have to pay the full price, even though my order was placed back in August last year. So if we go through the configurator and I'll show you, we'll click on the open from the code that I actually generated. And there you go, you get the base price change from the old price that I basically spec'd the car at to the new price, which starts at 66,700, and if we go in there and look at the full spec, that total price comes to 70,232. So for a start off, there's a big difference here in the value of the cars between the 992 that I would have had to order to replace my old one and this 718, which I'm actually going to get. But if we take a look at the car and I expand the pictures, I've actually gone with the Dolomite Silver, which is a slightly bit lighter than the GT Silver, which I had the GT Silver on my 718 2 litre and I just wanted to go a little bit different, but I did really like that if I'm going to keep it. And I also had black wheels on that car, but on this car they come as standard, and I was just thinking really to stay mostly to the standard spec of the 718. But what I have done is I've debadged it on the back there, and I've also taken it off the side of the doors because I don't really like those vinyl stickers. You can see we've got the red brake calipers on this car because of the higher rated brakes, and if we go inside, I've kept the interior with the race tech on the steering wheel and the seats. The car comes with quite a few things on there that I would have to pay extra for in a 992. Things like sports chrono, which if you've been watching my videos, you know I'm not a big fan of the clock in the middle of the dash. Yeah, okay, it's there. I'll probably end up using it. I'm going to get the opportunity to show you launch control in this car on the PDK as well, which I couldn't do in the C2 because I didn't have the sports chrono. I didn't go with controls on the steering wheel, not because I was trying to save money. I just don't like the look of them in that car. Instead of having the controls on the wheel on these cars, there's just a stalk behind the steering wheel. I had that on the other 718 because I had no controls on the steering wheel. I had no bother with it. I was perfectly happy with that. Helps you scroll through the right hand screen on the digital face in the dash. So other than adding the folding mirrors that I definitely added to my 992 after I didn't have them on the original 718, they're back on there. I also have added the automatic dimming mirrors because they're not a part of the standard features on the 718, even though they added them onto the 992 configuration. I've also put back in the tyre pump and tyre sealant because they've actually got really cheap and started taking that out of the UK as well. Other than all those things, I've left the car pretty much standard to the GTS spec. I've just took some of the badges off, even though you have the GTS stitching in the headrests, on the seat, and also in the dials that I've still left black. So the plan is, until this car turns up, is to actually track its order processing on the Porsche app, which is new to me because it wasn't there when I actually ordered my 992. They give you the 5 points telling you where it is in its build process and shipping and delivery, etc. Once it turns up, I'll start sharing the car. We'll take a look at the differences between this and the 992 C2 for anybody else that isn't sure, and I'll start digging deeper into the cost of ownership.